To kickstart with our session for today, the purpose of collaborating or of this meeting or this discussion is on the topic of cybersecurity. So we are going to get expert guidance within the cybersecurity sector of the whole tech industry. So definitely we are going to understand what we mean by cybersecurity, why it is very needed in today's world, the modern world, why is cybersecurity of great essence. And this is going to be an expert guidance from our very own. I would introduce the guest speaker for today shortly. Now, assuming that you were born in, let's say, 50 years ago or 60 years ago, and you want to compare the security field or the cyber field from 50 to 60 years ago and currently, what do you think has changed? What kind of shift have you witnessed so far? What kind of threats are you seeing that the whole world needs to pay much attention to? And if you are a novice or have no idea about what cybersecurity is and are very much interested in it now, which areas do you need to pay much attention to, and which career path, or how do you even begin your career path in general? Now, this discussion is powered by the Apau Foundation in collaboration with Youth in AI, EPDL, and the AfriDIC. Once again, my name is Misbawu Abdallah, and I'm the co-founder and president for Youth in AI. In short, Youth in AI is an organization, it's a non-profit organization, and it's 100% youth-led. And what we are doing at Youth in AI is to harness the power of artificial intelligence to transform our society in general. Within this organization, we've had several meetups, we've had several series of webinars where we bring in thought leaders to lead discussions of great value. Now that artificial intelligence is on the mainstream and it's impacting each and every aspect of our life, we also lead several innovation and several youth-led projects which looks to solve complex challenges in our community. And that's a brief about Youth in AI and what we do. Next, I would like to take you through the objectives for today's session. Now, these are some of the pinpoints that I promise you that by the time you leave today's session, you would be well served, you would be or you would understand well and well what these objectives stand for. First of all, you'll be understanding how to start your cybersecurity journey. I understand sometimes breaking into a particular tech field can be very, very difficult, especially if you don't have any guide or if you don't have any expert to take your hand and to lead you. It can be very difficult. We are fortunate today that we have our very own to lead us and let us know how we, myself and yourself, can start a journey in cybersecurity. We also be looking at why cybersecurity matters in this year, going to let us know how it mattered since time immemorial and why it's of great essence today and for future development. We are going to look at several practical roadmaps, which include tools, skills, and certifications that you can also take to strengthen your cybersecurity skills and also get or be acquainted with what's going on today. We'll also be looking at how to integrate cybersecurity into AI and emerging technologies. Now, emerging technologies consist of blockchain, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality. There are a lot of them. And within each of these emerging technologies, always the issue of cybersecurity is of premium importance. So we'll be looking at how we can integrate some of these cybersecurity tools to emerging technologies. Now, our main speaker for today is Mr. Richard Apau. Now, Mr. Richard Apau is a cybersecurity digital forensic and cyber threat intelligence expert with over a decade experience consulting, researching, teaching, and implementing projects within the information technology landscape. He is also intelligence policy expert with vast experience in AI governance and digital transformation. Mr. Richard currently works as a systems analyst at the African Union Counterterrorism Center, where he provides strategic capacity building on cybersecurity, data protection, and AI policy development across Africa. Now, at the African Union Counterterrorism Center, he manages and analyzes cybersecurity incidents through STEMS, endpoint and network detection and responses. He also coordinates the AUCTC's Continental Cyber Capability Program, which is aimed at ensuring Africa's cyberspace resilience to counter terrorists who seek to exploit ICTs and emerging technologies. Now, prior to his current role, he lectured various computer science and cybersecurity courses at different universities across Ghana, including Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, that's GIMPA, University of Education, Winneba, University of Skills, Training, Entrepreneurial Development, that's Amherst, Academic City University, among others. Mr. Richard has consulted and provided cybersecurity experts for several organizations across the globe, which includes NATO, CIAA, EU, and various UN agencies. He currently serves as a visiting lecturer for cybersecurity and artificial intelligence for several universities in Africa. And I'm sure majority of us today have either once been his students or are currently his students in some of these various public universities and programs. Mr. Richard is a member of the AU Working Group on AI, member of the AU Steering Committee on Security Sector Reform, and he co-chairs the AU's Joint Task Force on Cybersecurity. He's a member of AI Threats and Opportunities and Addressing Youth Radicalization Working Groups of the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism. He's a board chair of Youth Without Borders and a member of the board of directors for Youth in AI. Richard Apau is a PhD candidate in computer science, specializing in information security and data protection. He holds MPhil computer science with a specialization in information security and data privacy, and he obtained his BSc in computer science degree from KNUST Ghana. He also holds MSc Cybersecurity and Management degree from the University of Warwick, UK. Also MA Global Security from King's College London, and Executive Certificate International Law of Cyber Operations from University of Reed in the UK. He is a certified cyber threat intelligence analyst, certified IBM enterprise cybersecurity professional, and a trained certified network defender. Now, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to introduce our guest speaker for today. I know some of you would be like, why am I going on? There's the need for me to be able to let you understand the individual or the person that we have joining us today. So kindly pay attention to what our guests for today has to deliver to us, and feel free to jot down your question. You can also put it in the chat feed and we'll take it from there. Thank you very much for paying attention till now. I would hand over the mic to Mr. Richard Apau to take over. So over to you, Mr. Richard.
Okay. Thank you very much, Misbawu, for such a long introduction. The interesting point is that there was a popular saying which says that when much is said, it means that much is also expected. Misbawu, I believe I'm very clear so that the participant can hear me.
Yes, you are clear, and we can see your screen as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Also for you, the short notice that the team at Youth in AI had to put this webinar together. I'm very grateful. As you rightly mentioned, the genesis of this workshop is very much simple. Over time, I've noticed that quite a number of people have been sending me chats on my LinkedIn, sometime on Facebook, and even on X, wanting to get guidance or two about cybersecurity. But because of schedule, I'm not able to engage the individuals on one-on-one basis. And looking at the enormous messages that I've received, I discussed with Misbawu that it's important that we put this together. So at least I can answer as many of the questions that people may have. So it becomes easier when I'm interacting with them. Actually, that is the basis for which we have decided to put this webinar together. It is my hope that at the end of this presentation, you are able to really have a clear path for yourself, whether it is a profession you want to actually go in, whether you are new or you want to even transition there. And so, like Ms. Barr rightly mentioned, the outline for the presentation is very much simple. I'll give you a bit of introduction. We will look into the industry of cybersecurity, how it looks like, and then some global trends that is affecting cybersecurity and the opportunities that it brings. Then I know that there are varied people that have joined it. Some of them have zero experience in cybersecurity. Some of them have cybersecurity expertise. They need some guidance. Some of you are also in other professions and you want to now transition into cybersecurity. And so we would look at how you have to start to be able to build the right foundation for a successful career in cybersecurity. We will look at the various pathways that exist in cybersecurity and what best suits your agenda and interests. And then finally, when all is said and done, I believe that we all want to secure some job in the cybersecurity space. And so we will try and come out with some, more or less, some food for thought or some guidance and advice as to how you'll be able to navigate through your pathway in order so you can secure your first cybersecurity job. A lot of them have been said by Ms. Bao, so I actually don't need to repeat them. He's already mentioned my educational background, and then he's also mentioned where I work, where I started from. And so a lot of times, these are some of the questions that I do receive from people. But as you rightly mentioned, I currently work for the African Union, at the African Union Counterterrorism Center, where I work as a systems analyst and a cybersecurity expert. And before that, I was a lecturer in various universities in Ghana. I mean, my latest teaching was the Akintinapia University of Skills Training and Entrepreneurial Development, what is popularly referred to as Amstead, as you rightly mentioned. Yes, I've done some work in the field. And so basically, my work has been a matter of both teaching and the industry. And so I'm able to come from the two backgrounds, not just the academic side, but I've also been in the industry providing some consultancy services. And so in brief, if you want to know what or who Richard actually is, that is what I will say about myself. Now we go into the actual presentation. This is a quote I oftentimes using, and it goes like that: if you believe what you believe and believe what you would become what you would be. I mean, basically, it's just simple. It's probably meant that you have to believe in yourself, your abilities, tied with what you intend to achieve. And once you stick to that, you'll be able to achieve anything that you want to be. And that is basically about your decision that you want to be on the field of cybersecurity. And then you want to also learn about cybersecurity. So my message is just simple. Believe in your abilities. And I believe that you have an exciting field in this area. It's important, and I'm sure that all of us have noticed that in these days, demand for cybersecurity professionals have become even more critical. And that because organizations are looking for talents and individuals with the requisite skills that can actually protect the organizations. You might have noticed that since the COVID-19, where a lot of organizations decided that they want to move from the physical working space to virtual, and a lot of processes were now taking place in the virtual space, we experienced unprecedented amounts of attacks. This is to tell us that as technology begins to grow and technology begin to expand, then cybersecurity issues become also very important, because cyber criminals then take advantage of the vulnerabilities that exist in the cyberspace and be able to harm individuals that are within the cyberspace. And so basically in this presentation, and it's already been mentioned, we try to understand what are the essential steps that you have to follow. What skill sets that are required? What knowledge do you also need to be able to launch a successful career in cybersecurity? But my assurance to you is that no matter where you are, whether you are a student, whether you are trying to transition, whether you're already in the field of cybersecurity, whether you are teaching the field of cybersecurity, it is my hope that some insightful and practical advice will guide you, and then you'll be able to get something from this webinar. I decided to put this data together, and this is actually the latest Future of Jobs report for 2025. The Future of Jobs report is normally done by the World Economic Forum, and then they try to actually come out with jobs that are growing in the industry. The 2025 data actually present that these are the fastest growing jobs. And if you look critically into the jobs, you realize that a lot of the jobs actually in the area of artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, data science. And these are what is driving the industry jobs. And then coming to the down there, you see information security, which cybersecurity also for. But the important thing here is that as these technologies are growing and the kind of job that is generating, then the attack surface for cyber criminals become widened. And so the demand for information security professionals, or in short, cybersecurity professionals and experts, then will grow. So I wanted to do this so that it will guide you and see which tech areas are the job growing. And so there are varied tech areas. And no matter how it is, you cannot take away cybersecurity, because all the areas that are existing, they have connection with cybersecurity in terms of e-development. Even when you're an AI developer, you require knowledge of information security to come out with the right skills. Now, someone would ask, in a typical organization, how that cybersecurity comes in. So if you're already not in the industry, this is how cybersecurity roles evolve in organization. And this is a typical setup of organization. And so in organization, you see the chief information security officer being part of the management. That is the people that runs the day-to-day activities of the organization. So the CISO will probably be on the same line with maybe the director of finance, the director of HR, the director of operations, the chief operations officer, and they sit in a management meeting with the chief executive officer. But under the CISO, there are various roles that have to happen under the CISO. And the roles here are, one, there are rules for what we call governance. And this is very important for people that want to still be in cybersecurity, but do not want to do the hardcore jobs in cybersecurity. That's the purely technical job. If you are that type, then these are the areas that you have to be. Governance. And here, governance of information security, which has come with policies, regulations. Then we also have compliance, because every organization operates in countries where there are laws. There are data protection laws, data regulation laws, and the organization have to comply with those laws. And so there are people who are in the organization, and their activities are to ensure that, yes, the company is obeying the existing rules, either global or local. For example, in a typical case, Ghana, for example, we have the Data Protection Commission, which has the Data Protection Act. Then we have the Cyber Security Act 2020, which is now being championed by the National Cybersecurity Authority. And there are specific laws that mandate organizations to be able to comply with them. We also have security engineering, especially these guys are in the network operating center who are putting in place measures. Either they are configuring VLANs, either they are configuring firewalls, either they are configuring access points, and then either they are doing some packet analysis to ensure that threats are not being added to the network system. Then we have what we call Security Operations Center, which normally referred to as SOC. See, these guys basically are just like the NOC, which is Network Operating Center. But the Security Operations Center are a bit separated from the Network Operating Center for purposes of balance and monitoring. So they are somewhere and they are monitoring every packet that is coming into the organization. And when there was a need for them to respond, they are able to do that. And so if a malicious packet is coming into the network, they, through the tools they use, some of them use the SIM tools. Some of them actually use IPS and IDS, and then they're able to detect what is coming. Then we have what we call cyber threat intelligence. You see, these guys, the role they play is actually to look for vulnerabilities and threats that can harm the organization. They look for threats actors. They look for attacks that are happening, and then they decide to look at the tactics that the attackers are using. And so they develop measures. They can themselves even deploy a decoy, what we normally in cybersecurity call honeypots. Like they will put a system on the network that will attract the attacker. Then when the attacker comes in, they are able to know the tactics that the attacker used to gain access into the network. And then they'll be able to seal those loopholes. So that role also exists. Then we have what we call vulnerability management. These people are basically about what we call the good hackers. Normally we call them ethical hackers. They themselves can stay somewhere and try to penetrate into the network of the organization. And if they are successful, then they can then suggest how those vulnerabilities can be addressed by the security engineering group. And then finally, we have what we call the digital forensics. These guys, eventually, if there was an attack on the company, they are supposed to do what we call pursue and prosecute. And they are also supposed to do investigation to know how the organization was attacked, whose account was compromised. And then they come out with this evidence. And so if people are supposed to be prosecuted, then they come out with what they require, what we call the digital evidence. And that is a product of digital investigation using so many of the tools that are available. I mean, these days, a lot of police officers use what we call the NCASE, which is a licensed software I personally use. We also have free licenses like Autopsy. These can do basic analysis for you, and then you'll be able to identify the evidence on the laptop. It's a mobile phone. There are quite a number of softwares. If it's an Android, you can use the Celebrate. If it is Apple phone, the Passkey. There are a lot of softwares tools that you can use to be able to investigate the phone. Even if somebody commits a crime and then the person is arrested and police have to identify the crime the person has committed, then these are the people that conduct the investigation on the phones or on the laptop to actually retrieve the digital evidence. And by this investigation, we'll be able to know even every website the person has accessed, every email the person has accessed, including even photos that the person has deleted. Digital forensic investigation schools, especially the licensed ones, we are then able to get all this evidence, and then we will present to the court for prosecution. Look, the industry outlook is such that, yes, people keep talking about cybersecurity. Why do they do that? What is important here is that indeed the job is available, but the men are not there. So this quote actually comes from Michael Hinaku, the then CEO of Bridge Capital. He mentioned that jobs day, boys no day. So basically, what they mean by job day, boys no day is that the jobs are available, but we don't have people with the requisite skills. It doesn't mean that people are not available to take over the jobs. People are available, but their skill sets do not meet the availability of the job. And so those jobs remain unfulfilled. Basically, that's what it means. And that is actually the dilemma we have in the field of cybersecurity. Many jobs are available. The global skill gap is substantial. Many jobs have been left unfulfilled. And like I mentioned, not because people are not available, but the people available do not have the skill set that the companies want. And so those jobs are left unfulfilled. Indeed, as we speak in 2025, it is estimated that about 4.8 million cybersecurity jobs remain unfulfilled. And this is leaving organizations being vulnerable to attack. And this is an estimate by one of the cybersecurity certification companies, who are ISEC 2. That is their estimate for 2024. Now, aside that, 70% or 71% of organizations have always also reported cybersecurity skill shortage. They think that it is affecting them. And so if we have about, let's say maybe 10 companies, 7 of them actually believe that the skill gap in cybersecurity is affecting them. And a whopping 92% of such organizations mention that the skill gap exists in areas such as cloud security, such as machine learning and AI, and such as zero trust implementation. And why is this so? Because now organizations are virtually moving to the cloud. Because one, it is cheaper, it is cost effective. But once it's cheaper and cost effective, organizations cannot buy huge servers to store their data. And so there are so many cloud service provided. Amazon is there, Azure is there, Google Cloud is there. But all these cloud services also introduces vulnerabilities. So that is the balance that we have to. There was a cost and vulnerability. That also means that to put your data in the cloud, to put your services in the cloud, you require a lot of skills to ensure that your data is safe whilst it's being stored in the cloud. And so this is where organizations are finding it difficult. It is the reason why from time to time, you see that a lot of organizations are being attacked and a huge amount of money are being sent on the organizations. I'm showing these global trends for you to know what is actually making cybersecurity a growing trend and why demand for cybersecurity professionals have become so intense. It is some of these factors that I've listed. I'm sure I might not be able to look for all the factors, but whichever case you might look at it, these issues will come in. What are the global trends? A lot of countries are putting in place what we call data protection rules to protect their citizens, to protect the data of their citizens. If you might have noticed, you realize that TikTok, for example, is facing a lot of investigation in the UK, in the EU, in the US, and even in Africa, in Nigeria and Ghana, because they believe that the activities that goes on TikTok actually affect the private data of individuals and then put the individuals at danger of possible data breaches and the possible stealing of their data. And so these regulations actually put organizations that innovate into a lot of trouble. And so it have made it necessary for them to have data protection specialists, governance specialists, compliance officers to be able to ensure that their activities comply with a lot of the rules and regulations that countries that operate, in which they operate, are putting in place. Then we have also seen an increase in data breaches and phishing. And I did mention that this was a case even during the COVID-19, where a lot of data breaches were taking place because organizations were working from home. And you'll be surprised that 32% of all data breaches appear to be phishing. And this isn't going anywhere because you keep receiving them. And it comes in so many forms, including even through social engineering. You'll be receiving them, they entice you with words, and you just fall for them. And through that, your data is breached, your credit card information are stolen, and by the time you realize, monies are taken from your account. Again, we are even saying that the gap, according to MIT, is bigger than it appears. You remember I had mentioned that it's currently about 4.8 million. As of 2021, MIT reported that the gap is around 3.5 million. And so it means that as we move forward, the gap keep increasing and will become wider and wider because technology is growing. Then I've already mentioned issues of cloud security and how that actually brings the problem. Then there was what we call automation and integration. Look, these days, a lot of businesses want to automate their process. It enhances their productivity and it increases their raw output. And so they don't want to employ many people. They are putting robots, they are putting machine learning, and they are automating the processes. And so you realize that it explains why DevOps, for example, development and operation, basically moving the software development and then implementing them, it grows and it's growing. So you realize that so many people were talking about DevOps. Now, when the DevOps started, we realized that people were building applications. They were automating the process. They were integrating the operations, yet they were not putting security considerations. And security were being taught even after all those processes have taken place. And there was a problem. And so now the concept of DevSecOps now comes in and say that when you develop the application, make sure before you actually do the operationalization, you have considered the security implication. You do the testing, you look at the vulnerabilities that can harm the software, and then you see those patches before you operationalize, so that by the time you go full board and you start using the software for its purposes, security considerations have been identified. That one is actually also contributing to the demand for cybersecurity. And then there's what we call Internet of Things. And Internet of Things, in simple terms, is very simple. What it means is that everything that you use around you can then be connected and be operated even from your phone. Like, for example, in your house, you have a television, you have microwave, you have a fridge. What Internet of Things allow you to do is that you can connect all these devices in a network, so that whilst you are even in the office and you realize that, oh, when you were leaving the house, you left your television on, you don't have to go home. You can still stay in your office and be able to put off your television. You'll be able to switch off your phone. And that is what network is about. It means that all these devices will have to be connected in a network. And that means that IP addresses will have to be assigned to them. It is the reason why we realize that the existing IP address, which is the IP address version 4, it's not enough to connect the devices that we expect to connect in the Internet of Things. And so it was then necessary to now move on to the IP version 6. That introduces the IP version 6, which gives us access to huge amounts of IP addresses that can be assigned. Because on the go, we expect that IoT will enable the connection of about 50 billion devices. But the trick here is that, as I mentioned, as technology advances, risk and vulnerability also advances because the cyber attack surface then broadens. So here it means that your phone could then be attacked through the fridge that you have connected to the phone. Because mind you, IP address will now be assigned to it. And so IP spoofing can then be attacked. And it can be used now to attack your phone. And so the areas through which your phone can now be attacked have now increased. Because it's also estimated that when IoT devices are connected on the internet, within 5 minutes there was an attack. Now, the next one is what we call the 5th and 6th generation network, 5G and 6G, which have now even been become, because China, for example, has started, whilst maybe those of us in areas like Africa and Ghana, we are now trying to hook onto 5G. We didn't even finish 4G. We did not
We are now even trying to hook onto 4G.
Communities that are still on 2G and 3G, but yet others are on 5G. This means that the speed is going to be so faster. And so technology is going to increase. And as it's going to increase, it's also broadening the attack surface. And then
When I can hear again.
Organization, with all the technologies that I have mentioned, the weakest link to any organization is about 8 people. You can put all the technology in place, yet you can be attacked. Yes, on employees, intentionally or unintentionally. And so these things, sometimes we call it the insider threats. That is employees
Chairman,
that are disgruntled.
you have a code.
Employees that are disgruntled, for example, can be able to become an insider threat to the organization, and they may want to harm the organization. And so you need a dedicated team that will always be ensuring that these things don't go through. Having said this, the question now becomes, you have no experience, yet you want to go into cybersecurity. Where do you start from? I'm saying that you have to start doing something today that your future self will thank you for. It means that you are moving from zero to hero, from nothing, and developing your career. And so where do you start from? First of all, you have to lay the foundation for cybersecurity. And you have to take this very serious. It's very important. You cannot succeed well in this field, and you cannot have the feel you want if you don't take these fundamental issues. And for me, laying the right foundation actually comes from 3 areas. 1, it requires you to have hands-on experience. 2, you have to get the skills. Very important, not just the certificate. Here, skills is not about going for a degree in computer science or going for a master in cybersecurity. No. Real skills, practical skills, talent that will be needed in the job. Hands-on skills. And then, in addition to the skills, when you have the experience, there was something that you have to show to prove. And that is about professional certifications. Not only those that are taught in the university as degrees, but industry-specific certifications that shows your skills in a specified area. And as I do the presentation, I will show you some of the certifications depending on the area of cybersecurity that you want. And then you choose for yourself which part you want and which of them is necessary for you. Now, there are some basic cornerstones to start your journey in cybersecurity. And here it's like building a house. If you don't lay a good foundation for your career, your roofing cannot be sustained. It will rain, and then if you are not careful, by the time you even finish the roofing, the building is down. And so it's about laying a good foundation for your cybersecurity career. And so I decided to come out with 4 key issues that as somebody who wants to go into cybersecurity, you have to get the basic understanding of them. Even if you don't have the expert level or advanced basic understanding of them, when those issues are raised, you should be able to understand what it means. Even for those that are not interested in the technical aspect of cybersecurity, like those that want to go into governance, risk, and compliance, understanding of these basic things are very important, because if you are employing an organization as a governance expert or risk expert or compliance officer, you should have a basic idea of what a cybersecurity looks like. You should have an idea of what the networking issues are so that you can be able to detect where the organization is likely to breach a rule and what suggestion can be done to improve the organization to stay compliant. And so these things are step by step. For me, I think the first step is for you to understand IT fundamentals. And here, understanding IT fundamentals is just about knowing the various computer hardware components. So when you pick the computer, the issues of motherboards, the issue for electric circuits, how the architecture has been laid out, how our data processed within the computer, and how does the data come out. These issues, basic troubleshooting skills. Maybe you are working on the computer and all of a sudden your computer screen turned blue. What do you do? Do you have to go and call somebody? How do you do to turn it on? If your operating system is not booting faster, What are the various commands you have to do to facilitate the boosting of the computer? You see, if you want to transfer data, you want to save data, you want to do backups, these are what I call understanding the IT fundamentals. And this you have to get them. If you know nothing about it at all, Barack Obama once said that he thinks that computer science skills should be a basic requirement for all. And that is true. Because that's the world we find ourselves now. You should be able to understand some of these IT fundamentals. Now, to be able to understand this, you can use so many resources to do that. You can read this on the YouTube. You can read this on LinkedIn. There are so many other ALX. There are so many. And for me, YouTube is a very important place to learn. So you can learn everything about a computer that you want to know. But my advice for you would be that there is a professional certification by CompTIA. It's called a CompTIA A+. It actually gives you the IT fundamentals. So as way of your first step, it could be a place that you want to start from. If you take on this course and your finances will allow you, you can take this, and once you are done, then you come to the conclusion that yes, your fundamentals in IT is very good, because it will teach you a lot of things about the computer and introduction to ICT. Now, having done the IT fundamentals, your next step will be to understand network, what we call computer networking and protocols. And here, when I say computer networking and protocols, it means that you have to understand that if we say that we are sending an email, it means that you have to get access to internet. You have a computer. How are your computer communicating? Maybe you even want to print and you have connected your printer to the computer. You have to understand that setup. This is what we call computer networking. And so you have to understand how devices communicate within the network. You have to understand how data flows through the various network models. And you might know that, of course, if you are not even in the field of IT or computer science, we basically have two protocols for network communications. What we call the OSI model, which we call the Open System Interconnected model. That has about 7 layers, from application layer to data layer. And that tells you how data flows through from the highest layer to the lowest layer. Then we have the TCP IP suite, what we call the Transmission Control Protocol or Internet Protocol suite. That actually compresses the 7 OSI layers into 5. But basically, they do the same things, because the first 3 layers of the OSI is then compressed into 1. And then the last 2 layers of the OSI is now compressed into 1. So basically, you should be able to understand these models and know how data flows into them, because they also have protocols. And there are so many protocols that are implemented here, including the file transfer protocols, the data transfer protocol, the UPD, and all those ones. You have to understand these fundamentals. And to understand these fundamentals, what I would think you have to do is basically to learn about firewalls and how firewalls are implemented within the network. Because then you'll be learning about packet analysis. That, okay, somebody is sending the data and it's coming into the network. What are the procedures that the packet go through before it hits my network? And what rules can I put in place? And rules here can be access control list. It can be VLANs. It's just a matter of checking the packet that is coming to ensure that the packet is not harmful. And so you have measures in place to be able to prevent harmful packet from coming through. Then again, there was another important tool that I would advise you to look for. It's called Wireshark. Wireshark actually does network analysis of packets. It gives you a broad metadata about every packet that is coming, where the packet is coming from, which ports within the network the packet is accessing. And when you do Wireshark, you understand a broad understanding of how the whole data transfer, when it gets to the network and the various places that they go. So I would advise you to do that. These things, like I mentioned for the CompTIA, you can also learn firewalls and Wireshark also from the YouTube, or you can go to Coursera and you'll be able to also learn about that. I mean, you can reach out to me on my Facebook and I'll be able to send you a link where you can do some Wireshark analysis for yourself. Now, the third important aspect you have to know is about the basics of operating systems. Look, a lot of attackers target organizations through OS vulnerabilities. They know every version of operating system. If it's about Windows 10, Windows 11, they know the vulnerabilities in this window. So when they come to your network, first what they do is they'll do recognizance survey. Recognizance survey here means that they come into your network and try to assess which softwares, which operating system you are running on your network. Immediately they detect the operating system you are using. Straight away, they know the vulnerabilities of those operating systems. And so they will then begin to attack you from those operating systems. So for somebody who wants to go into cybersecurity, it is important for you to understand the basis of the various operating systems, i.e. the Windows operating system, the Linux operating systems, and then the Mac OS. What do you need to know here? You have to be able to know some basic command lines. In the Windows, you have to be able to know the file access permissions so that when you are creating file, you will be able to specify the permissions, especially in Linux command. Every file has to get permissions. Those that have full access to the file, those that can only read the file, those that can read and write the file, and those that can read, write, and execute the file. These are different command and access privileges that you have to put on the file. And my advice here for you will be to practice with PowerShell. And PowerShell is not any software that you have to download. It is sitting on your computer. Those of you using Windows computer, you can go to your start button and type PowerShell. It's a command line. You can use PowerShell to do a lot of things. I actually use PowerShell for data protection because I use the PowerShell to now encrypt the data. So it generates code for me. And then I'll keep that code. So the next time, if I want to see that the data has been corrupted or somebody has tampered with the data, I run the same code and encrypt the data again. Then I compare the stored hash and then the new hash that I get. And a lot of you might have seen that when you go to certain websites and you want to download the software, there are some hash values there. Those who put the software online, they have put the hash values there. If you have been visiting Microsoft's website to download hardwares, like for printers and all that, you will notice that there's a hash value. It is not there for fun. It is there for something. What it means is that when you download the software, hackers could have corrupted that file they have put there. And so when you download the software and you run on your machine, you'll be running a malware. So if you want to ensure that that software you have downloaded is the same as what the company uploaded online, what you do is that you run the hash for that software you have downloaded. You compare that hash value that you have generated on your computer with the hash value that the company has put online. If they are the same, then it means that nothing wrong with the software. But if you run and they are not the same, it means that the software has been corrupted. This is one of the powerful use of PowerShell, which is sitting on most of your Windows machine, that sometimes you have not even used it. And you also have to practice and know some Linux commands, basic of them. These things that I've mentioned, they are basics. And if you have time, you have to move through these steps, and then you'll be able to understand the basis of OS, or what we call the operating system. Now, having done step 1, 2, 3, and you are done, you need to understand some basics of programming and scripting. I know, yes, it looks so very intimidating. Yes, I understand. Even for those of us in computer science and IT, not everybody like programming. But here, we are not asking you to have an advanced level of programming or scripting. You know, some of the scripting are very simple. For example, even in PowerShell, you do scripting. Your PowerShell, you need commands. In Linux, you do commands. These are what we call scripting. Okay, so it's not any big thing, but you need to understand some basis of computer programming and what we call the object-oriented programming principles. It's just basically about mathematics. It's just the same way that in mathematics, you probably might not want to divide a number by 0. You get an error. These are the basics that computer programming will teach you. It will teach you how to protect data, how you can declare a data, how you can declare a variable. You know that, oh, okay, you have a variable that has maybe integers, how to store them. So these are basic understanding of computer programming. For me, it is very important. It's not that scary. But if you really want to enhance your career in cybersecurity, to have broad understanding of what the field is, then when you are done with these three, then you can add the 4, which is the basic computer program. It can be Python, it can be C++, it can be Java, and it can be SQL, because there are so many attacks on databases, what we call SQL injection, where somebody tried to attack database and then change it. So it's very important that you understand some of these things. For me, if you can, when you are done, you can try and practice and learn Python. There are so many resources online where you can use to learn Python. Now, when you are done with these IT fundamentals and the cornerstones of basic things like the IT fundamentals, the programming, the OS model, and then the network protocol, you also have to understand the basics of cybersecurity. Because there are certain principles in cybersecurity that are not theory. They are principles, you have to understand them. And this is very important whether you want to go into governance, which is the non-technical aspect of cybersecurity. You need to understand these principles. Whether you are an accountant and you have decided to add some aspect, because most of you accountants, will then have to audit information systems. Okay, and in the auditing of information system, you have to understand some of these basic things. So one, what do we mean by cybersecurity? It's just simple. All that we are saying is that we want to protect computer systems and information system, and we want to do so that it is available, and that when we are communicating, people don't see what we are communicating, and that is what we call confidentiality. We are saying that as people will not see what we are communicating, even if they see, they should not be able to destroy or modify what we are communicating. That is what we call integrity. Again, we are saying that we have our data that we have stored somewhere in the cloud. Whenever we want to have access to the data should be available for us to use. And that is what we call availability. And so when that data is not available for us, then there was a denial of service. So people are denying us to have access to the database. Okay, so there was a popular code we call in cybersecurity, and you hear it a lot. Everywhere you go, anybody who is teaching you introduction to cybersecurity will mention it. We call it the CIAA Triad. And these are the goals of cybersecurity and information security. It's about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Even the entire networking also adheres to these goals and principles, because the network should be available. It should allow data or information to be transmitted in a confidential manner, and then it should be able to ensure that the communication we are doing through the network is not destroyed by an attacker. That's the CIAA Triad. But you see, that goal is not complete. There was a method that we use to achieve that goal, and that one we call it the AAAA. And so some people extend the CIAA now to extend it to go to CIAA AAA Triad. It means that we are talking about authentication. Authentication is basically simple. Even on your phone, you have put password on them. That's authentication. Then we have authorization. Authorization is simple, about privileges. So people don't elevate their privileges. Privileges mean here is that if you pick somebody's phone and then he give you his phone, he's gone further to also put something on his WhatsApp that you need authority to be able to access that. Then there's accountability. We should be able to know who is doing what within the network, so that when there's a problem, we can identify the computer that caused the problem. And that is basically one of the principles of cybersecurity. Again, another principle in cybersecurity is about risk. You have to understand the intersection between assets, what we are trying to protect, threats, what we are protecting against, and vulnerabilities. Those are the weaknesses in our protection. So in cybersecurity, we say that risk is equal to assets multiplied by threats multiplied by vulnerability. What this one means is that if one of them is absent, since it is multiplication, and you know in multiplication, if 1 is 0, then the entire aspect is 0. So in cybersecurity, we say that if this one of them is 0, it means that the risk is 0 or minimal. What does that mean? If you have a room and you have nothing valuable in your room, and you are going out and then you did not even lock your room, you don't have fear, because even if somebody breaks into the room, there was nothing valuable in the room that the person will take. So here it means that the things valuable that you have in your room is actually the asset, which can then be your computer. The threat is the armed robber who can come in to break into your room. And the vulnerability here is about the fact that you did not lock your door. So even though the criminal is there and you have not locked your door, you give access to the criminal to enter. But when the criminal enter, there was nothing there for the person to pick. So we say that the risk is 0 or it's minimal. And then basically, you have to understand the basic principles of cybersecurity processes, which is about doing a risk assessment, which is about protecting after the risk assessment, which is that a company should, or individuals should possess the capability to be able to detect when an attack is coming into organizations. And if you are not able to detect, then you should be able to respond. Okay. And for me, this is very important. And these are some of the mistakes a lot of people in cybersecurity do, because they tend to focus so much on trying to prevent cybersecurity attack from taking place. And that is what they do in their protection mechanisms. For me, I've always told people, prevention eventually fails. No matter the equipment, the technology, the resources you put in place, prevention will eventually fail. One day or somehow you might be attacked. But that is not the problem. Being attacked is normal. But when you are attacked, how are you quickly to bring back business, continuity of business? What are your data recovery methods? And that is what we call resilience. So you have to understand those principles. Having done that, these are basic things that you have to know as somebody who wants to become big in cybersecurity. You have to know what I call the fundamental security concept, security controls. These are about password. We are talking about how business processes align with security encryption. I've mentioned obfuscation. This is the terms that we use in networking. And even in computer program, we use obfuscation because we're trying to hide certain data. Okay. General cryptographic protocols. Basically, we are talking about Bob and Alice, how we encrypt data and how the person get access to the data. And then we have threat actors and their motivation, the various attackers. Who are they? What are they looking for? Security architecture, data protection, basic vulnerability management, identity and access management, how to respond to incidents, and your understanding of policies, compliance, and security awareness. Here, security awareness means that if you are within an organization, you should have the capability to actually teach the people for them to understand the risk exposure that they bring to the organization. Here, I have an advice. My advice is that there was this course on Coursera. It's called the Google Cybersecurity Professional Certificate. If you can, I think that you have to subscribe to it. It is not free, but it is also cheaper. Again, for those of us from low-income countries, you can actually ask Coursera for sponsorship, and then they will be granting you sponsorship module by module until you finish. So please take advantage of them, because once you do the Google Cybersecurity Professional Certificate, all these terms that I've mentioned here will be so easy for you to do. Now, having done these basics and having moved on to do the practice and all that, there was what I call experimentation. That is where theory actually meets practice. Cybersecurity is not a theoretical field. It requires you to practice. You have to practice. Practice. It's very important. If you don't practice, you will not have the skills. So in your own house, on your computer, you can set up a virtual machine using Microsoft VirtualBox or VMware. What it does is that it creates a virtual environment for you. So you have your computer and you can run different operating systems like Linux. If your machine is maybe Windows, you can have Linux on your machine. If your machine is Linux, you can then have Windows on the machine. And you can be able to experiment, install all softwares within the virtual environment, and then you can be practicing on your own. There are also so many links that you can use to actually practice within the virtual environment. And then again, you would then have to also have knowledge of some basic network tools and security softwares. I've already mentioned some of the tools like Wireshark. Then there are also basic tools like Snot. So you can do scanning, port scanning, and all these you can do them in the virtual VMware. Once you set up the VMware, you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to look at ports, port scanning, and all that comes with it. Then you practice there. Then there was also security monitoring analysis too. Like for example, the Wireshark. We will even have what we call the packet sniffer, which also functions just like the Wireshark. But if you have not even been able to practice on that, then here again, I have an advice for you. You can have what we call the Cisco Packet Tracer. Indeed, the Cisco Packet Tracer is a virtual environment. It allows you to create every network that you want. Within that, so you can create a virtual network for yourself, how a typical organizational network look like. The routers will be there, the switches will be there, and then you do the network cables and connection and all that on your computer. Then you are able to do the segregations into the VLANs. You will be able to apply access controls. And then when you are done, you can test your network if it is working. So the Cisco Packet Tracer allows you to do that. You can download the software and practice on your computer. There was also what we call the Microsoft Threat Modeling. Here, if you want to do risk assessment and then be able to identify the risk to organization, those who want to go into governance, risk, and compliance, it's a very important tool. It's also available. It's open source. You can use them. You can also create a network virtually, know the threats that are coming and the controls that you have to put in place. And then again, you can also look for Try Hack Me. You'll be able to do a lot of practice with Try Hack Me. These things that I've mentioned are all available when you go into Google. Then the next one has to do with what I normally call, and I've been saying this, jobs will always wait for skills. Jobs will wait for skills. Where it means that if you pursue the skills, in the worst case scenario, the job will come. But without the skills, I do not think that cybersecurity is a place for you. Not even you are well connected, because you'll be exposed. You will be in the role and the organization will be attacked. You will be in the role and the organization will be in breach of compliance. And so no matter how you look at it, the pathway to cybersecurity is such that you need to get the skills. And indeed, like I mentioned when I started, it's a fascinating branch of information technology, but there are challenges. But if you want to go into it, these are also the possible pathways. Either you are doing the academic work, which means that you have to study in a university or college for certificate courses, for diplomas, for bachelors, for masters, or for PhDs. And here, it can be any of the field. It can be computer science, it can be information technology, it can be computer engineering, it can be mathematics, physics. There are so many other broad areas of academic endeavor that could allow you to be able to get a foundation that is needed to pursue a career in cybersecurity. But these are not enough, especially when these courses are not coming with the practical approach. Because what you have to know is that in cybersecurity, you can be the highest paid without even a diploma. Just the certification and your skills could pay you higher than somebody who even has a PhD. So in this field, we are not a respecter of academic degrees. No, we are a respecter of skills and what the people can do. Because I'm an organization, I want to be protected. It's not about the certificate we are holding, especially so when you cannot prove your certificate with the knowledge. That's when there was a disconnect between your academic certificates and the skills that you can actually do on the field. And then experience is also very important. Now, I've mentioned that this experience, if you are an entry level or you are just a immediate graduate and you have not been able to employ to have these skills, you can develop these skills yourself through the labs that I mentioned. doing your own project on your computer in the house, and practice is very important. Then professional certifications I have mentioned, and I've mentioned some pathways. This area, certifications are very important because some of them are vendor specific, some of them are also skill specific. And then one of the area will be, so you will see that I have done this as a road where you have to be moving, the way you have to be moving to on a cybersecurity path, attend conferences and webinars. And so if you are in this webinar, it's one of your greatest pathway because there are so many things that I've probably said here that you didn't know about them, or there are so many advice I've given here that becomes a lesson for you. And you need to upskill. Upskilling me here that you have to enhance your knowledge. Now, having gone through the basics, it's important that you understand the broad career path that also exists in cybersecurity. We have what we call engineer roles. And here, engineer roles, we are talking about information security officer, security architect, network security engineer, security development, security software development, what I mentioned earlier called the DevSecOps. You see, there are so many other roles that I have not mentioned. I cannot exhaust them. And I'm sure some of you who are already in the field in this webinar know that there are so many roles. Then we have tester roles. Here we are talking about penetration testing. We are talking about ethical hacker, security researcher, engineer. We have responder roles, those that do the digital forensics, those that are trying to prevent hackers from attacking our system, those that are in the security operating center, the SOC. Then we have regulation roles, as I mentioned, governance and compliance. Here, the person can be a data protection officer, it can be a data privacy compliance manager, it can be information systems auditor, like especially those who are having accounting as auditors. They need information systems auditor. Then there was what we call governance, risk, and compliance. And then there are also capacity building roles. Somebody who is teaching the university is a lecturer and a trainer. Somebody who is also doing research in cybersecurity to know the trends and challenges. And there's somebody who also wants to practice a cybersecurity consultant to help countries come out with their cybersecurity strategy, policies, and what have you. So those are the various roles. But you see, those roles that I've mentioned have their unique specific certifications. I put CISSP at the top. And I put CISO also at the top because these are part of the highest industry certifications. And for people that are the pinnacle of their cybersecurity career. So we have the Certified Information System Security Professional, and then which is done by the ISEC 2. And then we have the Certified Chief Information Security Officer, which is also done by the EC Council. And there are a lot of cybersecurity certification institutions. I try to list some of them here. We have the EC Council, we have the Cisco, we have the ISEC 2, we have ISACA, we have the ISO, we have GIAC, and there are a host of other, okay? And then there are sometimes, it's more or less look like a competition sort of, but there are sometimes similarities in what they offer. Some of the certifications here is basically about the other one. So you just have to check which of them cause implications and then what the industry is demanding. Then you can go for them. So if you go under the engineer roles, I have listed some cybersecurity certifications. The one you see at the bottom is actually the basic certification that you can get. And I see a lot of people doing the CompTIA Sec, especially the entry-level cybersecurity professionals. They do the CompTIA Sec, and they are able to get employment with them as entry-level roles, especially in the US. I see people that are not even in cybersecurity or that's not even in IT doing that specialization a lot. Then if you want the tester roles, there are penetration testing. And one of the certification I see people do a lot is actually the Certified Ethical Hacker, which is actually issued by EC Council. A lot of people also do that. Then in terms of the responder role, there are so many of them. We have the computer hacking forensics. We have the cyber threat intelligence analysis, which I have done. And that one is really not also expensive. And I think that it gives you a lot of skills on how to do threat intelligence to prevent organizations from being attacked and identifying vulnerabilities and then recommending roles. And then we have the regulation rules. This also have like something like the CISMs, which is done by the ISACA. We have certified governance professional done by the GIAC. And we have the ISO 27001. And that one has 3 aspects. It's either you are specializing as a lead auditor, that lead implementer, or as internal auditor or as external auditor. The requirement is different. If your organization and you want to have this certification, then you need to have an internal auditor who has been certified by ISO there. And then here too, one of the certification I see a lot of people do, which is at the bottom, is the Certified Information Systems Auditor. And here I see a lot of people from accounting background that do this certification, especially if you want to be in the big 4 accounting firms, like big 4 accounting firm, like what we call the KPMG, the Deloitte, Ernst & Young, and all that. Those with roles that do this, a lot of them. So the 5-year is about having done all this, having decided on your certification, having gone through all the bases and all that. You need to secure your first cybersecurity job. And this is also very important. Yes, the skills are important, but your ability now to use your skills to secure the job is also where sometimes the hell is. And I'll just teach you some basic skills. This is not exhaustive. I hope that next month I'll be able to do another webinar to show how to practically apply for some of these jobs to get you interviews. So I'm saying that action is a foundational key to all successes. And this popular quote was said by Pablo Picasso. It means that you have to take action. It is not really easy like that. This becomes the life cycle of those of us in cybersecurity. You have to apply right, and you have to apply strategically. Okay. You have to apply right, and you have to apply strategically. First, you start crafting your cybersecurity resume or CV. Okay. Here, you have to tailor your resume to the job you are applying. And we don't expect to see generic things. We expect to see practical things that can be quantified. Oh, I work on this project to do ABCD. I've used this particular tool to do ABCD. For example, if the work requires you to use SIM tools, which is the security information and event management tools, then you have to mention which tool did you use. Did you use Splunk? Or which tool did you use? Are you getting it? If you are in the SOC, if you were practicing with SOC, which of the tools did you use? Did you use something called IDS, IPS? You see, these are some of the things that we expect. But here, if you have 0 experience, that is somebody from school or somebody that is starting cybersecurity, the project that you have created by yourself in the various labs that you created in the virtual machines, you'll be able to list them that I worked on this project to do ABCD so that they will be able to know that, yes, you understand the industry and then you are practicing. You have to apply for jobs also strategically. Here, I will tell you, the most important thing here is the network. And again, I repeat, this one is not even for only those that want to go into cybersecurity. Even you, no matter the environment you find yourself, you can apply for about 100 jobs. If you are lucky, you'll get some 3 interviews. A lot of the jobs sometimes we see online are already filled job. And so they have to advertise to meet organizational requirements. Your network is very important, especially international organization. It has been proven that a lot of HR people like referrals. That's somebody who works in the company refers somebody. Somebody who was in the company and has left refers somebody. They believe in that than interviewing somebody they don't know because they are not too sure if the person can do the work. So you have to build relevant network. How do you do that? You have your LinkedIn profile. You have your Facebook profile. You have to put a professional digital footprint. Your engagement, identifying people and politely reaching out to them to guide you. They are in organizations and their vacancies, they can be able to link you up. Then you need to become, how do you become the best candidate after the application? It's all about practice, practice, practice. Because some of the cybersecurity jobs require practical demonstration of your skills. And so if you don't practice, you will not be able to ace the interview. Specialization is key. if you go through 1, 2, 3, and you secure your first job, then you might want to see whether you want to be a generalized expert in cybersecurity or you want to specialize in cybersecurity. We have areas called application security. We have security testing engineering, and then we have also cloud security. These are areas that you can also build. And then finally, you have to learn to build effective habits because cybersecurity moves rapidly. So you have to stay in touch, know what is happening in the industry, and that's require you to read in so that you know the changing dynamics. Ultimately, the secret is that you have to continue to improve in order to stay relevant in the field. But as a way of bonus, there was what I call persistence, leveraging your knowledge, networking, and also staying focused. Because the journey is not that smooth. There are a lot of challenges. Sometimes you will feel the rejection. Some moments you even doubt yourself, especially when the job is not coming and you are still learning. But for me, if you stay consistent, I believe that you will succeed. Thank you. Misbawu.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Richard Apau, for the fantastic presentation. It was really, really exciting and very, very thought-provoking. Yeah. Now we will move on to the Q&A session now. I know majority of the attendees or the people here have a lot of questions from your deliveries alone, and I know some also came in with their own questions. So should we open for people to unmute and speak? Or yeah, I think to not restrict everyone, make sure that your background is not noisy. And Mubarak Musa, this is your last warning. If you unmute and disturb the session again, you'll be banned from future sessions. Please pay attention. Okay. If you have any question, kindly raise your hand and I would pick based on those that raise their hands first. I would permit you to unmute and speak. So if you have any question, kindly raise your hand and I would pass over the mic to you. As we wait for people to step in, there's a question in the chat. Philip is asking how veritable is EC Council, and do I need a degree in cybersecurity to be employable, or getting my certifications are enough?
Okay, so just to quickly respond to Philip. So Philip, EC Council is a very verifiable organization. In fact, they are one of the best. Okay, based in the US, they issue a lot of cybersecurity certifications. I have done 2 of the certifications from them. And it's very good. It was paid for by my organization. Some of you can be in an organization where your employers will pay for it. In my case, my employer paid for it. I think the threat intelligence was about $1,200, and the certified network defender was also about $1,500. So they paid, and I did the training, and then I wrote the exams. And so they are very verifiable. In terms of whether you need a degree, for me, like I mentioned it, you can have high schools. Once you have the certifications, you can get your job with just the certifications. And that's what I mentioned, because this field is not about the theory, it's about the practice. And so if your certification will prove your worth, you'll be able to get a job. Hardly do you even see cybersecurity jobs that is asking for maybe bachelor's or master's. A lot of them will even list industry certification, or they will list the specific skills that they require in those jobs. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Newman, can you unmute and ask your question?
Okay, thank you, Mubarak. Please, why do we apply for cybersecurity jobs? And does we also have age limit coming to cybersecurity?
Okay, so Mr. Richard, the question is, are there any age limits for cybersecurity jobs? And yeah, is there any age limits?
So he asks, okay, one of the questions, so where? So you see, Nima, I think that the where you can apply for cybersecurity jobs so many places. You see, there are a lot of job sites that people post. For me, LinkedIn is one of the most important places. So I, on my LinkedIn, for example, have listed maybe looking for a job that is not showing. And I've indicated the type of cybersecurity roles that I want. So anytime any job of a sort is published, I get alerts to that. So you can do that setting on your LinkedIn. And a day, I think the least I get is about 10 cybersecurity roles in Europe. The only thing I have seen is that maybe the salary does not meet my expectation. Okay, especially within the Europe, because I've seen that even the middle level, you see salary between 70,000 to maybe 90,000 euros. Whereas in that could be a salary for an entry-level person in the US. Okay, so I see a lot of them that I qualify, but I don't apply for them. So do that. You get a lot of entry-level roles, including even graduate-level cybersecurity roles. In terms of the age specific, I have not come across that, but know also that every organization have age limits within which they want to employ people. So it depends on the organizational policy. For example, my organization will not employ you if you are more than 50 years, because the retirement age in the organization is 60 years. And so if you employ you at 55 years, it means that after 5 years, you have to exit the organization. And we have taken 2 years to do recruitment. And then just after 5 years, you are leaving. We have to spend another resources to do another recruitment. So this is organizational specific. Thank you.
Okay, that's very great. Newman, hope your question was answered. Next, we have Godfred. Godfred, kindly unmute and share your question.
Okay, thank you very much for this session. I have two questions. I'll make them short. So the very first one is I have a background in data science hello. Okay. Yeah, I have a background in data science, data analytics, and I'm also very interested in cybersecurity. So currently I'm with KNUST UITS, the cybersecurity team, but I want to be at the intersection of data science and cybersecurity. And after so many research, I think I'm falling between threat intelligence. But the question is like threat intelligence, that role, I don't know how to like step into that role. Since I'm just a graduate, I'm just doing my national service so from here, like what's the next thing I can do to enter into that like intersection? And my second question is sometimes it's very difficult to break into cybersecurity. Like, I mean, the remote jobs. If it's software, you being a software engineer or you being like a developer, it's easy to get a role outside and they'll pay you. But recently I came up with an opportunity and I almost got it. By the end of the day, they told me because of my country's something, and I was very down. So with that one too, I want to ask like, how do you break into cybersecurity remotely, or it can't be done at all? Thank you very much.
Okay. So I mean, I understand the frustration and I understand the difficulties. I mean, you are not alone. A lot of people have expressed this misgiving. Okay. I mean, I can say that you are on the right path, especially being able to identify what you want to do with your current job and your future prospects. For me, it is the best because in data science, you are looking at some issues of big data and how cybersecurity affects it. And that is where, for me, your threat intelligence comes in. So in order to go into threat intelligence, like I mentioned, it still boils down to getting the fundamentals. If you are in data science, it means that you already have the basic fundamentals. And I know the UITS very well. And the UITS, a lot of the guys there. It means that you are also in the right team. It's just a matter of specializing in your threat intelligence, because there are so many tools that I mentioned that we use in threat intelligence that you have to know how to use them. And that include even SIM tools, that includes Splunk, that include even the Wireshark that we talked about. You see, so you just have to get the skills to know that, okay, this is the path I want to cut for myself. And then you don't necessarily even need to do another master's. You can then decide to do the EC Council Cyber Threat Intelligence Analyst course, which build your understanding, the theory and the practice, and the foundation to land yourself in a threat intelligence course. I was going to be a bit surprised to say that you actually got a job with a cybersecurity remote. It depends. If, for example, you were working on issues of data protection, governance, risk, and compliance, it was much easier for you to land maybe a virtual role. Are you getting it? But generally, the country you are working in is also very important. The reason why they say that is that, see, they are going to grant you access to be able to do so many things on their network. And if your country are such that they don't have a lot of infrastructures to protect, then you are rather exposing the country that you are working on with. Remember, somewhere in my presentation, I mentioned that employees are the weakest link to organizations' cybersecurity. And a lot of time, they come through even IT people, because we are also sometimes vulnerable to social engineering attacks. And I can give you a typical example that an IT person caused his company to be attacked, and he has to actually, I think the company lost about £1 million. And when they realized the attackers have siphoned the money into various countries, and this was from an IT person. And so organization normally will not do that. And I know it's a big challenge. If you are not in areas, if you are maybe in Europe, somewhere in America, so some of the roles, when you see that it's remote and the job is in America, they are looking at working remote anywhere you are located in America, or they will accept anywhere in Europe. But in the certain countries in Africa, they will not, because of the risks that are applied to it. And so if you want to learn remote jobs, then you can also begin to look into maybe DevSecOps. You see, DevOps operation, that encompass security. That one, majority of the team are working remotely, so we'll be working with software engineers that are not also located in that, because at that time, they have not started the operations of the software, and so we'll be able to raise some of these issues. So that is a challenge, and for me, these are some of the limitations that comes with where we are coming from and where we are located. But I think that you'll be able to navigate through. And sometimes about assurance. If the company believes also so much so that in your skills, then you'll be able to address to them what you can do to mitigate these vulnerabilities they will face in working from Ghana. I don't know if this is clear.
Yes, please. It's very clear. And thank you very much. I think maybe the best solution for me is to start targeting to be in those countries themselves, because yeah, thank you.
I'm very sure that with consistent, you will find one, especially if you are doing something so much in Ghana and you want this as a second. I know so many people that got data protections role, data compliance role in Ghana. I have a personal friend who was in the Ghana Armed Forces, and he secured a role like that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Richard.
That's very great. Now, before we come to Benjamin, there are a couple of questions in the chat that I would like you to pick. One is from Ben Nate. So he says, what part of cybersecurity involves the use of ethical hacking to hack devices? Like what is used by the police in investigations? What skills are normally used in the Army cyber team?
Okay, so what you are talking about here, there are two type of cybersecurity aspects. So here we are talking about the tester roles, okay, and then we are talking about the responder roles. Here, the tester roles actually involves ethical hacking. So you need to have the skills to be able to hack into people's devices, organizational devices, okay. But what the police do is actually not ethical hacking. What the police do actually is digital forensics. So the crime have taken place and they want to do investigation. Or when the police want to trace a criminal and know his activities and footprint, that is where they do the ethical hacking. And so they go through the ethical hacking to identify certain information to be able to trace where the person is located and then be able to arrest them. Like take, for example, in Ghana, the recent FBI thing that are going on in the place. Look, it is so simple for the FBI to arrest anybody, or not even just FBI, even the National Security of Ghana. Unless they don't want to arrest you, they will arrest you. Ghana police, unless they don't want to arrest you, they will arrest you. Unless you are not using mobile phone. Because immediately you put on your mobile phone and you put on your Wi-Fi, your location is automatically being shared. Are you getting it? So with MTN, they will be able to know the SIM card that you are using. And once you're on the internet, a specific IP address is assigned to you anytime you go on the internet. So with the IP address, they'll be able to use that to trace your location. So you'll be surprised that sometime you are in this house and then you see the National Signal Bureaus. They have a device that can listen to anybody who is around that area. Are you getting it? So those are actually ethical hacking rules and other sophisticated technologies that they use. So it's about ethical hacking and what we call signal. So signal, because that's about also part of the threat intelligence. Okay, there are so many aspects of the threat intelligence. For example, we have the OSINT, which is the open source intelligence. We have the image, the signal intelligence. We have the human intelligence. We have imagery intelligence. So there are so many aspects of them. And signal intelligence is one of the things that security agencies use to track criminals. But if you have committed a crime and your equipment have been seized through warrants, then the police have to do what we call digital forensics. So that's a responder role. And so you can decide to specialize in digital forensic investigation, and that you can help the police. Even if you are in the police and you're in their cybercrime office, for me, it is the best place that you can work in the field of digital forensics. So, because I have noticed that in a lot of police we have across Africa, they have forensics, but those forensics are biological forensics. So they do DNA analysis, they do blood samples, so that if somebody is raped, they'll be able to take the person's shirts and then go to the lab and see whether there was a contact between you and the person. But digital forensic is missing a lot, which is an area of opportunity. If we are even seeking to enter Ghana police or the military or customs, I think that this is an area you have to consider, digital forensics, so that a lot of laptops are being seized by Ghana police all the time. And some of them, they give to private companies, or sometimes they send it outside the country for the investigation to be conducted so they get the digital evidence. So that are basically the two roles that the security agencies use and how each of them respond in the area. Thank you.
Okay, that was very fantastic.
My question would have been very nice. My question would have been a follow-up to the digital forensics. Sorry for interruption. So please, what are some of the tools what are some of the tools that are required to do the digital forensics?
Yeah, I remember when I was presenting, I did mention of them. So there are so many tools for various processes of the digital forensics. Okay. For example, when you see the item, you need to now create a virtual copy of the item. For example, if it's a computer, you don't work with the hardware itself of the computer. There was what they call image triage. The image triage means that you are creating a duplicated copy of the hard drive. Okay, when you create that on the hard drive, then you now move to the next software to do the analysis. One of the basic tools that you can use to create that triage is what we call EXIF2. EXIF2, for example, will allow you to be able to create that triage. Okay, then once you have created a virtual copy of the hardware, then you move on. If it is a computer, then you move on to a software to do the analysis. And one of the software I mentioned is what we call Autopsy. You can Google them. Autopsy is actually free and available. You don't need to pay them. But Autopsy has limitation. The limitation about Autopsy is that if, for example, there are files that are encrypted, Autopsy is not able to de-encrypt a lot of the files. So that is one of the limitations of Autopsy because it is also proprietary free. But there was a more advanced one, which we call the NCase, which a lot of the advanced policing use. With NCase, it allows you the possibility to even decrypt an encrypted file and be able to allow you to get even cracked a password folder that is on the person's machine. And then you go into it. You're able to actually have access to deleted files. All of that. And sometimes also, the tools also depends. It depends at the state in which the device was actually confiscated. If the device was actually, when the person comes and the device is on, if your laptop is on, by way of principle means that I don't have to turn off your device. And so I'll come out with another device, more or less like a charger, to ensure that the device stays on until I get to the lab to get the information. Because computers are such that at every minute, metadata is passing through when the device is on. And so if I put off the computer, then I'm going to lose some sensitive information that can compromise the evidence that I'm looking for. So these are some of the tools for computers. But if it's on phone, I mentioned, for example, an Android phone, the basic of them that we use is what we call Celebrate. And it's available online. You can use them. Yeah.
Okay, that's very fantastic. Please, if you have a question, either raise your hand or put it in the chat feed and you will rightly be called. Next, let's hear from Benjamin. Benjamin, also kindly unmute and share with us what you have.
Yes, thank you so much, Richard, for the presentation. I think that you've mentioned on so many things, but what I'm looking for is a person-specific advice in terms of career change. From my area, I've done a lot in mathematics, statistics, data science. For the past 5 to 6 years, I've done a lot of machine learning analysis. And most of my work have been related to big data analytics within the health sector. And I appreciate you mentioning the Google Cybersecurity Certificate as a starting point. And I think that I've started looking at it as well. But then beyond that, for somebody who wants to change career, and I would admit that, yes, I have a lot of resources available in terms of obtaining the academic qualification in these areas. So beyond the virtual or the online certificates like Coursera, what specific programs or specific degree pathways would you suggest for somebody who wants to go into cybersecurity from the scratch? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Benjamin. Benjamin, I would think that for me, you already have everything that you require, especially having mathematics background, data analytics, and also having the fundamentals of machine learning, because this is basically about AI. Are you getting it? So you are looking at how you are even able to integrate AI. And in cybersecurity, we have now been talking about how we'll be able to integrate AI into cybersecurity to enhance the kind of work you do. And for me, if you're also working in the field of health, then one major area of cybersecurity I would advise you to be will be data protection. Okay, because then the transition becomes so smooth and easy for you, because you're already working in that field, you are using AI models, and now we are talking about ethics of AI and ethics of machine learning, and because human lives are also involved. And here, we are always concerned about the data that we are training the machine learning with. It is a big issue, especially, I don't know where you are located, I think in the UK. Okay, it's a big issue there. We are using people's data to train these machine learning models. Are you getting it? Privacy issues come in, protection issue come in. And you know for a fact that until the UK left the EU, GDPR, and I believe that they are still even implementing GDPR, because the UK Information Commission places so much importance on information and data protection based on their rules. Okay, so I would have gone into data privacy, and it will be a big area for you in cybersecurity because you already have the background. You are using data analytics, which require that you are using people's data. You are doing machine learning analytics that requires that you are using people's hospital data. Okay, and so there are compliance rules. HIPAA comes in. HIPAA is a health information and protection. Are you getting it? So it's not only in the US, it's also applicable in the UK. Are you getting it? And GDPR is still applicable, because then you know that the little breach of GDPR within the UK will cost companies millions of cedis. You remember recently the incident that happens at the NHS, where people's data was bit. Look at how the UK Information Commission fund organization, big money. Are you getting it? So from that, they will have to take fundamental care of people's data. And even as researchers, if you are in the university, how researchers are using it. When I was in the UK and I was doing my data collection, it was a big issue. When I get the data, how I discard the data after the research, and I have to do evidence. And I was actually made to go through an introduction course to GDPR to understand what it means to treat people's data and what you can do with the data and the disclosure that comes with it. On the part of the South, we seem to not take care of some of these issues. But in the global North, it's a big issue there. So for me, it could be the best fit for you, and you will do little. For me, you will do little. And I'm very happy that you're already going through the Google Cybersecurity Professional Certificate. It's a very good point for you. There was another basic certification that I didn't mention it. There was what we call Certified in Cybersecurity, a CC, Certified in Cybersecurity. And I've seen EC Council runs that. It's very cheap. I think that one is not expensive, sometime around $100 to $200. And ISEC 2 also runs that, Certified in Cybersecurity. And for me, then you add the other cybersecurity certification to it. For you, I wouldn't actually want you to go and do another maybe bachelor's, master's, and PhD. No, it's not needed for you because you have bachelor's in mathematics, you have master's, you have a PhD. Are you getting? And then you are practicing on the field. And so you need some of this certification to back your point. Just a lot of these certifications. You can do the CISM, you can do the CISA, which is not purely technical. Okay, but even you, once you are doing the Google cyber certification, you can take some of the courses like the threat intelligence and all those kind of things. You can do them. But I would advise that you stay within the areas of governance, risk, and compliance. It will be the best for you. And you wouldn't need to probably even stop the job you are doing because you are in the UK. You can get remote work based on that. And your background allows you to be able to have these two jobs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rich.
Okay, that's very amazing. So talking about jobs and opportunities in UK, Bismarck is asking, can you suggest organizations for internships here in Ghana? Okay, you are muted, Mr. Richard. You are on mute.
Sorry. For me in Ghana, there are so many organizations that their work actually involves cyber security. You know, there's what we call critical sectors, and this includes the health sector. This includes the financial sector. This includes the telecommunication sector. Okay, include education sector. And even the Cybersecurity Authority, if you are located in Accra, I believe that you can just walk into them. You see, the challenge in Ghana is that organizations are not much committed in taking interns because they believe that they will now be asking for transportations and all those kind of things. But for me, what I would tell you is that you have to push. If you go to organization and they tell you that, oh, there was no internship opportunity, tell them that you have your resources to come to work because at the end of the day, you are building your skills. Okay. I will tell you that in my organization, we don't pay interns. We don't. But you find out people traveling all over the places, coming in as an intern, spending 1 year with us, using the name of the organization and the work they are doing as a launch pad to secure bigger jobs. Is that okay? So there was a time, I remember when I came back from the UK, I walked straight to an office that I needed a job, not even an intern. The head of the department looked at my face. I think that he probably had not seen anybody like that. And then by that he said, oh, there was no even vacancy. But when I left the job, by the time I got home, he made one of the person called me that they have this role. Will I be able to take this role? And I said, yes. And after about 2 weeks, I started the work. You see, so you have to push because I know that it is very difficult to secure intent and it's very unfortunate. And I think that these are some of the advocacies that Misbawu, your group, you might want to see how you talk to policymakers in Ghana, like the Ministry of Education. I mean, people cannot be studying IT computer science without internship. But I remember when I was in Ghana and I was studying computer science, every long vacation I was doing internship. Every long vac. I started after my first long vac, I was in Tema Development Corporation. And I learned a lot of skills. Because what you have to know is that there was a limitation in what you can learn in the school, especially our settings. You are in a class where, for example, the university has admitted 500 students to do a BSc computer science. While you have a lab that takes only 100 people. So you go to the lab and 2 or 3 people are on the computer. There was a challenge. I remember in one of my masters in the UK at the University of Warwick, the total class was 39 people. We have a lab of laptops available for about 50 people, yet our class was divided into 2, just so the lecturer will have time for us. So when I go to the lab, I have 2 computers. I can be switching between each of them, and the equipment are there. Yes, some are trying their best in our country, but there was also real challenge. But you find yourself in that environment. So you should be able to, on your own, see what you can use the limited resources to achieve. Okay, so you can practice on your own and don't stay home. It is better to work, even if you can go to the organization and you don't have money for transportation. You can make an arrangement with them. Oh, I'll come 2 times in a week. Oh, I'll come 3 times in a week. Are you getting? And you learn something. I mean, this is how we learn in our part of the world.
That's very amazing. And to also add up briefly, some of the works we are doing at Youth in AI actually requires volunteering. And we currently have about 15 people that are interning with us. And they work on different capacities. We have some that are working on machine learning modeling. We also have some that are working on data analysis. We have some that are working on AI research. Also, I mean, several roles. And the mission or the aim, the end goal is to have or to equip them with first time or introductory skills within the work setting. And some are doing amazing so far. So do well to connect with us after this session, and we can look at other internship or volunteering opportunities that you can have and also apply your skill sets to. Okay, next question that we are taking is from Dennis. So Dennis is asking, with regards to digital forensics, do I need an in-depth field of cybersecurity to proceed, or a beginner level will be okay to proceed in the field of digital forensics?
Well, so you see, it's just like any aspect of the cybersecurity, okay? We have beginner roles, that's the entry level we have made, and then we have advanced. Are you getting it? So if you are entry level, then you have to be looking for roles at the entry level. But basically, if you are looking at the entry level roles, like I've even seen somebody put in the chat that EXIF2 is the best. It means that the person has been practicing with it. Knowing it is very important because, of course, in digital forensics, you are going to do investigation. But that is not all. Maybe if you find yourself in an environment where there are experienced digital forensics professionals, they can be doing the reporting. One major aspect of digital forensics is how you present what you have found. And I can give you a typical example. Somewhere in 2020, I had to review a digital forensic report that the Ghana police was using to prosecute someone that was accused of child pornography. So he basically uploaded nude pictures of a lady that she was dating into Empress Leak. And then the person reported to the police, the guy was arrested, police seized the guy's equipment, and then they did a forensic investigation. And so the defense lawyers wanted someone to give them an advice on what the report contains. And so I had to now come in to give a professional advice on what the person has stated in the report. And I had to raise issues, what the defense lawyer can raise to the person, which is missing in the report. And you see, I noticed that yes, there was clear evidence of the offense, but just by what the person has written in his report, the court could not admit the report as evidence. Because you see, we don't want to create a situation where any digital evidence at all can be submitted for the prosecution of people. And so the weight that we place on digital forensic evidence is higher. You have to prove beyond that indeed the person committed the offense, and every evidence that you are finding on the machine can be traced to the person. So for example, if you take my machine and you say that I have done A, B, C, D, what shows that I am the one who used the machine to do that. You see, so how you craft the report is very important, and there are templates that we use. And the words you are using in the report, in one of the reports I reviewed, I felt that the person was being prejudiced. And I alerted the judge attention to it, that he is a digital forensic professional. He is not the prosecutor. And so he cannot take side. His job is to report what he has found on the computer. And he has even a responsibility to report things he has found on the computer that could be used to exonerate the person. Because as a digital forensic professional, there was what we call inculpatory evidence and exculpatory evidence. Okay, so inculpatory evidence is direct evidence that can say that, oh no, this person committed a crime. There can be exculpatory evidence that say that, no, this evidence I found suggests that, no, this offense has been committed, but these things I'm finding show that it might not be this person. Your job is to bring all these facts to the judge, and it has to be available in the report. And then a lot of time you go to the court as an expert witness. I have gone to the court as an expert witness where I was questioned by the prosecution team because I was with the defense team that was raising so much questions on the report. And so I was questioned. And I had to tell them what I felt was wrong. And I even requested that if they want, we can redo the forensic investigation. And I know they didn't want to do that because the time they seized the machine was somewhere in 2015, and I was in court in 2020. They may not have kept the machine well, and some things might have been introduced onto the machine, which will bring in more culpable issues. And so basically that is it. You just have to know the basic tools that I already mentioned. EXIF tool for triaging, like autopsy. You can practice with autopsy. You can watch YouTube and know how to use autopsy. Celebrate for mobile phones, you can do that. And then when you are done, know the procedure of digital forensics. One major important procedure in digital forensic is the chain of custody. How, when you go to take the machine, and that's some of the mistakes that our security agencies make. They can seize a laptop and start roaming in circle to see who can crack the password for them. These are wrong. You see, their procedure, what we call chain of custody. The processes that the machine have gone through, it has to be documented. When you seize the machine, if it was on, you have to go with a digital forensic officer. He knows how to preserve the machine that is on to ensure that the machine never turns off. You see, that's why I mentioned that for me, if you are seeking to enter police or military or whatever in Ghana, this is an area that you might want to specialize, and it will help our law enforcement agencies a lot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, will you advise for an individual to identify an area of interest and master it, or learn all around and apply for any related role that's advertised?
It's going to be very difficult to actually be a generic person that is suitable for every role. For me, it's going to be very difficult. You know, I have listed so many fields in the cybersecurity. Look at yourself. Look at where your capability is. Are you the technical person? Are you able to learn to master the tools? Are you getting it? If you know that, then you go into engineering roles, and there are 1,001 engineering roles. What I also have to say is that certain areas have limited job opportunities. Okay, but engineering roles, responder roles, and tester roles are a lot. Like, because organizations are always looking for people who can do vulnerability into their network for them. You stay outside and do them. Organizations are looking at people who can protect them. That is putting in place the right mechanism to protect the organization. So there are a lot of cybersecurity engineering roles that you find online. There are also a lot of cybersecurity tester roles, penetration testing, ethical hacking. You find a lot of them. Digital forensic, you find a lot of them. And so for me, look at your strengths, and you can master one or two of those strengths, and then you can switch roles as and when it's available. Because specializing in all fields is going to be very difficult. I should think so. That's what I honestly believe. Yeah.
Okay. Next question is from Nafisa. So she's asking that how do we fit in, especially for people with. Okay, so the question is, in Ghana, we know that connections go a long way. For someone who doesn't have those networks or access, and yet companies are asking for hands-on experience, how do we fit in? how do we get the tools or guidance to practice and gain the expertise needed to qualify? And also, where and how can we start building expertise from the beginner level?
Yeah, so you see, as I already mentioned, networks are very important. And you can develop network from scratch. Okay, what you people call connections. Sometimes we thought that something wrong was that. I mean, there was another way we call maybe favoritism and all those kind of things. But you see, these things are now being formalized into what we call, now the HR actually beautify it. They call it referrals. You see, you might call it maybe favoritism, but that favoritism is actually, favoritism and nepotism is one thing. Okay, that is, you are in a higher authority and you are just using your position for your friends and cronies. That is different. But here we are looking at people that are working in an organization that can recommend you. It does happen. It does. I have a friend that I was with, and I have another friend that was working in Ghana. They advertised a role, and I spoke to the person. He spoke to the person, and he asked me whether and because it was coming from me, yes, the person got a role. And this was somebody that was just leaving the university, got a role. Are you getting it? So that is what network is about. It might not be even the person that you are networking with that is going to give you the job, but he might also have somebody who has the job. And this is how it works. You can build networking from so many areas. Like I mentioned, this webinar that you are in, you are building a network. You can identify people, you can privately chat them, ask for their contacts, or you can just follow people that you have met here on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you can identify people that are in the area that you want to be and find a strategic way of engaging the people, having their time. You can build it. There are so many people I know and I interact with on Facebook that I've never met them. But I interact with them, they send me private message, they have my WhatsApp number, but I've never met them. And so if there was a role in my company and I can have their CV and I can put in a word for them, yes, the company will find them. And I know it's even in Ghana, it's an issue that is going on. And so you're also asking for where to start building the expertise from beginner level on your own. I think that I mentioned a lot of these steps in my presentation. So what I would do is that some of you have requested for the video. I'll try and share it with Misbawu so they can distribute to you in your emails.
Okay, that's very amazing. Next, are there any all-in-one security distributions like Kali Linux that are good for beginners?
Okay, so I have used Kali and I've used Parrot. Okay. For people that want to actually start as a beginners, I will go for Kali because Kali allows you to have so many other add-ons, installations, and then you are able to practice it. So if that is what you want, then it means that Linux is your friend. And like I mentioned, to be able to use Kali effectively, it means that you know some command lines. And so you have to start, like I mentioned, it's part of the things that I mentioned as the fundamentals. You see, remember I mentioned that you have to get your OS, the basics of OS, and that include Windows, Mac, and then Linux. Kali is, I mean, for me, I feel that it's one of the most open source applications that have ever come for us. Because with Kali, you know, you can be able to do a lot of post scanning. You can be able to do vulnerability scanning. You can be able to do IP spoofing to attack and all those kind of things. And there are so many tools that can actually be used in Kali. In fact, if you want to do ACL, which is Access Control List, yes, you can use Kali to do that. So for me, if it's an area that you are practicing, you can begin to specialize a lot and use the various tools that come with Kali. But of course, to use Kali, it means that you have to get some basic understanding of Linux.
Okay, that's very amazing. Because we are past time, we will take just 2 or 3 questions more. Or Mr. Richard, are you open for some 2 or 3 questions?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm with you.
That's great. So there are 2 people that are saying that are currently teaching and into the IT field, but without any technical skills and want to dive into cybersecurity. Where do you advise that they start from?
Okay, I don't know if they mentioned where they are teaching.
Okay, so currently teaching at an SHS, but he wants to study digital forensics. What is the way forward for him? And the other person has no technical skills, but want to dive into cybersecurity and ethical hacking. What's the way forward?
I mean, the way forward was actually mentioned in the presentation. So once again, I listed some steps where you have to start from. Okay. If you are teaching an SHS and you are teaching ICT, then it means that you understand some of the fundamentals. Are you getting it? And then I talk about practicing, and I talk about certification. I talk about the pathways. And so I'm sure when you get a video, you probably might have joined late, and at the time maybe I had passed that area, but I really gave an explicit explanation on these things. And for me, like I mentioned, there was a pathway for all of you. Those that are already teaching, that have zero knowledge, and those that are seeking to re-enter cybersecurity, those who are trying to transition. I mean, I think that there are some slides that when you read and listen to the audio, it actually will guide you.
Okay. Now the next question, I think there are two people that are asking that for digital forensics, so people with skills in digital forensics, can you suggest organizations in Ghana that are currently hiring or open for roles?
I have left the Ghana industry for about 4 years now, so it becomes difficult for me to know which organization are hiring for roles. But like I mentioned, I think that most of these organizations in Ghana also advertise their job through LinkedIn, okay, and from their job site. So I believe that if you're not on LinkedIn, I would advise you to be on LinkedIn. And then you tailor your job search. Like I mentioned, on LinkedIn, you can do your settings that any job that is advertised. And then you can choose your location that you want these jobs that are advertising in Ghana, and always you have them. Trust me, people are getting a lot of money in Ghana. People, and sometimes I even envy them. Sometimes I wish I want to come back. You see, people are staying in Ghana and they are making a lot of money. Companies in Ghana are paying them in dollars and all those kind of things. And so, yes, I do not think that the atmosphere is that constricted like that, because there was a general feeling, as I mentioned, about the lack of skills. And I see that a lot among a lot of our Ghanaian graduates. Yes, people have certificate to show for. And sometimes you see people doing 2 or 3 masters when they have not even been able to use their first masters. You know, sometimes we use education as a means of running away from unemployment. And by so doing, we are not really able to enhance our skills. Please focus on developing the skills. And I believe that there are so many competent companies in Ghana that require your skills, especially the banks. There are a lot of cybersecurity roles in the banks, and I see people moving all the time. They are getting entry-level roles and advanced-level roles.
Okay, that's very amazing. So do your research very well. There are opportunities. Do your research very well and don't give up. That's very amazing. Yeah, so I think some people have already started sharing their LinkedIns in the chat feed. You can also share your LinkedIns within the chat feed, and people can also connect with you. I would also share Mr. Richard's LinkedIn in the chat so that you can connect and seek further knowledge or advice also. Now, we've gone past time, and I would like to thank each and everyone for making the time to join us today. I would also like to thank Mr. Richard Apau on behalf of the attendees today. We really appreciate the advice, the knowledge, the guidance that you've provided. Yeah, and I'm sure people will be leaving here today with very clear mind, on what path that they need to follow on. So thanks very much for your time. It's been very, very wonderful, and you've been an amazing audience. Looking forward, we will definitely talk behind the scenes with Mr. Richard so that we can see how we can have these kind of conversations more often, and get further career advice as well. It's been very, very amazing. But before we wrap up on the session, any last advice for the audience, Mr. Richard? Any last piece of information that you'd like to share? Any final key takeaways?
Um, Like I mentioned in my presentation, I think that it's just basically about being consistent and being persistent. For me, there was no shortcuts. Yeah, of course, you see, there can be shortcut, but the implication also. But for me, I believe that if this is the area you have to go, just get committed to it. And I believe that all of you will succeed. Maybe the next time we meet here, we'll be discussing about how challenging the field is and how to solve our challenges. For me, you always, and already, if you're already even in the field, you always have to stay ahead because, Charlie, the technologies are changing. Hackers are developing new skills. And so as somebody who is defending organization or as a blue team member, you always have to stay ahead because this is a rapidly changing field that require you to always understand what is happening. And I think that you'll be able to succeed. Thank you.